Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte, and we are taking a look today at what kind of job Ron Francis has ahead of him going into the inaugural NHL Trade Deadline for the Seattle Kraken. The Kraken, in their first season, things necessarily haven't gone to plan. Now, this is what a lot of experts predicted, that the Kraken would probably be toward the bottom of their division. They currently sit second in the Western Conference right now in terms of last place, only behind the Arizona Coyotes. They have a 16-28-4 record through 48 games this season. So what's the sentiment going into this year's trade deadline? And it's pretty clear, but we'll be going over that today. So let's get right into it. So the Seattle Kraken, like I mentioned, the standings aren't too kind right now, as they are sitting at the basement of the Western Conference right now, second last in the Western Conference, and overall in the league, they sit third in the NHL, only behind the Arizona Coyotes and the Montreal Canadiens. So there's clearly a rebuild on the mind right now for Ron Francis and the Kraken. So the first report here, we have a couple of different links to the Kraken as of late. So this is the first one on their captain, Mark Giordano. This is from Elliot Friedman. So teams with rental defensemen are asking for a first and third round pick for them. And he didn't even mention Giordano in particular, but let's be honest, that's probably what it's going to be. And Mark Giordano is going to be one of those guys. We look at what just happened the other day with Tyler Toffoli getting traded for Calgary. That costed them a pretty penny. It costed them a former second round pick player, right? A prospect, a first round pick, a depth player, and multiple depth draft picks. So you're looking at pretty good value here. And the thing is, defensemen bring value. And you look at what the type of defensemen are out there. You have the big one, right? John Klingberg, who is probably the biggest on the list, and Jacob Chychrun, who I think that's going to be more of a summer deal. So the asking price, his market is separate from everybody else. We're looking at just purely rental defensemen like Mark Giordano. Giordano will probably go for that similar price. And I think the Calgary Flames, they could be in the mix for him, but teams are going to be looking at Mark Giordano as probably one of the top 5 guys on the list that I would say, in terms of rental defensemen, in terms of his experience, he won the Norris Trophy in 2020. Wasn't that long ago as a 30-something-year-old defenseman. Giordano still has something left in the tank, and he's going to be cup chasing this year. So you can probably expect Giordano to go at the deadline. I'm going to guess a team in the Eastern Conference. It could be a team in the West, in terms of going for a first and a third round pick, probably. So this is another report here from Arthur Staple and Linda Cohn. So this was what they said. They talked to Kraken GM Ron Francis about the approach to the trade deadline. He told me he's listening to offers on everyone as he continues to assess who should be with the team long term. It's believed, and this is from Arthur Staple, the Rangers. This kills me as an Islander fan. He is the Rangers reporter. It's believed the Rangers have talked with Seattle about Kalle Järnkrok. It's preliminary talks, but there is something to that. So that's a very interesting report. We know that the Rangers have been looking around the Kraken, kind of sniffing around some of those guys. There's been talk about Jonas Donskoi, Kalle Järnkrok, right? So those are the kind of guys that the Rangers would like to add to their group. And I think Kalle Järnkrok would be kind of an under-the-radar guy to bring in, right? It's believed that the Rangers have been having preliminary trade talks regarding Kalle Järnkrok. So that would be an interesting fit for the Rangers. Now, this is another report here. This is from Adrian Dater. There is a slight chance that the Avalanche could have interest in Kraken forward Jonas Donskoi. Jonas Donskoi has had a very odd season in Seattle. He has yet to score a goal with the Kraken, at least the last time I checked. He's got like 17 or 18 assists, yet he doesn't have a goal. So kind of a weird thing for Donskoi. Oh, there you go. He finally got his first goal. So I did put that here. Through 45 games with the Kraken, he's got a goal, 14 assists, 15 points. And his contract ends next summer, coming in at $3.9 million. So I guess if you're the Avalanche, you're looking to add some depth, that would be a guy that they would like to bring back. A guy they lost in the expansion draft to the Kraken last summer. They may be looking to add him back. And he's only 29 years old. He'll be 30 by the time the end of the season rolls around. His birthday's in April. So Donskoy would definitely be an interesting addition if the Avs were to bring him back. Now the question is, what would the price be? I would guess probably a second and a fourth, maybe even a second and a third, depending on how many teams are after Donskoy. It comes down to, what do you see him as? Do you see him as a $3.9 million paid third liner that, if there's injuries, can jump into the top six? Or is he a guy that you're saying, he's a third line guy that's probably overpaid and I don't see him fitting in the top six? Depends on what teams value his salary at, considering it's not a rental. You do have to pay him for a full next season. So that's something that we're going to have to look at. Kalle Järnkrok is a name that we haven't heard much about, but Arthur Staple was able to get that out of them. He's a 30-year-old player. He's been around the league. He came into the NHL in the 2013-14 season. He was a big part of the Nashville Predators in their cup runs, really from 2016 up until 2018-2019. Even went to the Stanley Cup final that one year, right? So there is some interest in Kalle Järnkrok, and he's been bouncing around since then. He's been with the Kraken. Looks like he may find a new home this year, and his contract at $2 million does end this summer, so he is going to be a rental if the Rangers look to go that direction. And he's put up pretty decent numbers as a bottom six forward. He's got 7 goals, 8 assists, 15 points in 34 games this season, so every other game he has practically picked up a point. Not too bad for the 30-year-old Swede. And again, I think there will be plenty of teams looking at him. In terms of a team doesn't have much cap room, Kalle Järnkrok could really be a nice addition. Again, you're looking at a similar price here, probably a second and fourth round pick for Kalle Järnkrok, maybe even a prospect. So that's the latest on the Seattle Kraken. I think Ron Francis, again, the standings tell you the story right off the bat. This will be a team that is selling at this year's deadline. And I think they'd like to maybe make some changes, 1-for-1 deals over the summer just to get some new looks. But again, you have to remember, they've got some draft picks coming in. You have Matty Beniers, who could probably be a top 6 center next season, right? They wanted him to play at the University of Michigan this year, get a little more experience, gain some more confidence, get a little bit more development, so he'll be ready to take on a bigger role for the Kraken next year. And I think Matt Beniers has a lot of potential. And I think the Kraken are very excited for a guy like him to jump in. And let's be honest, that's been one of the biggest problems for Seattle this year, is they don't necessarily have the depth, especially down the middle. So I think when you add some more of the prospects they have in the pipeline, this team will get better, I think, as soon as next season. So guys, let me know what you think. Comment section down below. What do you think of the Seattle Kraken? I think Ron Francis has his work cut out for him, but I think he's ready for this job. He did the expansion stuff with the Carolina Hurricanes in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I think this is going to be a really exciting venture for the Kraken, as year one wasn't necessarily the way Vegas came out with a splash, but I think they're doing things the right way from what we've seen so far. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.